Welcome back, everyone, to Real Estate Junkies Coast to Coast. I'm Rick Abbiati, your co-host, coming from the East Coast. Rusty, normally coming from the West Coast, is away today, dropping off his son at college. So today I've got a special guest on with me, Avi Berger. He's a member of our community, and we're going to be talking about his most recent deals, which are pretty exciting. So our episodes consist of a warm up, a game plan, and a cool down, with our focus being on mindset, skill set, and systems. So, with that, welcome, Avi.
Thank you. Appreciate for being on, Rick.
Glad to have you. So, let's talk about mindset first. And you've been with us for quite a while.
Yes.
And how has your mindset changed between when you started and where you are now?
Uh, the mindset has always been, seeing what the possibilities are has always been driving me, and of course my why, which is my family and various things surrounding that. And the community has been very helpful in keeping me focused, helping me develop my why, and uh, and just pushing forward through difficulties that do come up. So that's and of course, much happier now as I'm getting more deals under my belt.
Obviously. So, in what ways has the community helped you with your mindset?
Um, th- One of the nice things within the community is that periodically it's not just all about the deals and the numbers. It's about helping people, which is where I come from. I come from a place where I want to help the people that we work with, whether it's the people we buy from, the people we sell to, all that sort of thing. And along the way is how does it impact me and my family? And those are things that are touched upon within the community. We all have to have our driving force, driving why of why we're trying to accomplish for ourselves, so we can help other people.
Right. Yeah. Totally get that. We all go through that. So, with your mindset, as far as your mindset goes, when what have you done differently over this time frame until you really started getting deals?
Excellent question. Have I done differently? In what sense? What could you expand the thought on that?
Well, when you before you got your first deal, what kept you going, and um, what kind of efforts did you put in as far as your focus goes?
Mm, Okay, so the initially it's the what we're always taught within the community from all the coaches is you have a three payday system. I happen to be a real estate broker. Currently, or what I have been doing is selling real estate. It's a one shot deal. You go in, you help somebody out, you get paid, and you know they're in their house for on average 7 years. So
Yeah.
it's really to hope that you get referral business, that sort of thing is difficult. It's This is more the sense that I got when I saw the vision that I saw from everybody was to do a deal and then continuously be getting paid for it over the course of several years. And that was a lot of the drive there, was that building for the future, and that's what kept me in the game.
All right. Awesome. So when you started with the community, and we all come in with goals, and at what point did you realize that? And if you did, I'm assuming you did, turn that into an actual plan.
It was probably within a few months where I really developed a plan. At the end of each, as we get towards the end of a year going into the next year, that's one of the things that is, nothing's required within the community, but that's strongly encouraged is develop your plan and do your goals based upon where you're trying to get to. What's your financial goal? Well, what is it going to take to get there? And we go through the numbers of how many down to the nitty gritty of how many phone calls is it going to take to be able to turn out a certain number of deals by the end of the year. So I would say I joined the community I think in October, November of a particular year. So by January, I had developed a set of goals.
Okay. So you developed your plan, changed from goals to a plan. I'm assuming you probably just laid out what your blockers are and a specific plan to overcome each of those blockers.
Uh, yeah, yes, and that's changed over time. Uh,
Yep.
Initial blockers were just getting on the phone and calling people, and once you do that often enough, you have new blockers you got to deal with, and that's one thing that you've helped me and Rusty's helped me to overcome various different challenges as we go through them. Most of them are I'll call them my own challenges that I create for myself.
Yeah, don't we
Yeah.
all do that? So awesome to hear that. So let's transition to our game plan and talk about these deals, specifically the last couple deals that were done through a wholesaler. Can you tell me a little bit about those? Just how you got those deals? How you was it through one wholesaler or multiple wholesalers?
Yeah, so these were both through the same wholesaler, and I had been trying, excuse me, I had been trying to develop a relationship with him because I'd seen him posting deals just on Facebook groups, and they're in the area that I'm working, and some of them look pretty good. You know, not every deal that comes up is great, and you have to be careful which wholesaler you're working with. Are they legit? Are they honest? And just seeing him over time consistently and just various other personal things that he was sharing, he seemed to be, a genuine guy who's bringing genuine deals. But I was having difficulty with it. There was a particular deal that I wanted. I kept reaching out to him, and he was not getting back to me. And at some point, Zach Beach picked up the phone for me. He's one of the CEO of the group, and he called the wholesaler for me, and using his own um, experience and leverage and whatnot, brought me in as being someone who's also part, basically under his wing, and that gave me a lot of credibility with that wholesaler. Uh, then later on, a deal came across that was an owner financing deal that the wholesaler had negotiated all the terms. I just had to walk in and take over, obviously pay him his fee, which is fair, and uh, took over what I thought, what we all think is a great deal, and that's how I. And then from there, this another deal that I'm in the process with him right now. We're under contract on. The reason he went with me was because he had done a deal with me before. He said, I have offers from several other people. He said, I'm going to you first because I don't know any of them.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Create a good relationship, and that's a lasting relationship.
Yeah, correct.
So you mentioned that things that he had said that made you think that he was reliable and trustworthy and does business in the right way. How did you establish that? Was it just communications over Facebook? Did you pick up the phone? Did you meet him for coffee?
Uh, I've never met him in person. It was communications over Facebook. Some of it was just his postings. Something you get a sense of a person when you see often enough. I mean, obviously people can put up a facade, but he's when it came about for the deal in terms of how he handled it was made me very comfortable. Money all went into escrow with a title agency. It wasn't into his bank account. So there were just little telltale signs that um, led me to understand that he was honest and upfront about things.
No, at any point did you connect to the seller directly, or was it always with the wholesaler?
So I actually did. Both times I've met the seller when I went out to the house to take a look at it, and the seller met me there uh, in both instances. So I have had direct contact with the seller.
Oh, okay, so the wholesale was okay. He trusted you enough to be able to do that.
Yeah, well, he had it under contract, so it wasn't.
Right.
He
Right.
didn't have a problem.
Yep. No, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about, you mentioned the one that was he had already structured the terms of it. But what about the other one?
Well, it's the same. He'd also structured the terms. Both of them he'd structured excellent terms. Both of them were um, owner financing, making payments to the owner every month with 0% interest. Both of them were negotiated for 10 years of payments.
Wow, that's
So
incredible. That's I think that was a record for one of your deals. I think. Um, what was the total paydays for these deals?
I don't have that in front of me, but one of them was, well, it's one of them was, I think, $165,000 purchase altogether, including the wholesaler's fee. I mean, plus there were closing costs I had to pay, but basically
Yeah,
165 plus closing costs. And I think if it really goes out to full 10 years, I'll make uh, probably over $200,000 on.
not bad.
Yeah,
Reaching out to somebody on Facebook.
exactly.
So, does anything stand out as like lesson learned in getting these deals?
Um, Lesson learned in terms of getting the deals.
Yeah.
You have to be out there. You have to be talking to people. In terms of if you're working with wholesalers, I don't have any bad experiences with a wholesaler, but I would just say you have to be very wary of that. Make sure that before you send any money, that person has a deal under contract. The money's going into an escrow account until closing, that sort of thing. But in terms of finding them, I joined a whole bunch of Facebook groups. There are all sorts of, you could just, if you're on Facebook, you can look up creative finance, subject to owner financing. You look at these things, you'll find all sorts of groups out there. A lot of them are repetitious because there's a lot of people all in the same groups. But the more you join, the more you can see what's out there. And personally, I would look for people who are consistently posting deals. That's in terms of credibility. If
Hmm.
it's a good deal that's not, not someone who's been on there for a long time and they're new, certainly look at it, but just be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. It was real helpful that we had experience in creative financing.
Can you
You know,
repeat that?
it's really beneficial that he had the prior experience with
Yes,
creative financing, which isn't always the case.
correct. Correct. It's really, uh, and he negotiated some really good deals. I've seen some other stuff that he's put out there that I've turned down because the term, for various reasons, the terms weren't great. Uh, there was one that was it was buying the property subject to the existing mortgage, which is something that we do and I've done. But the mortgages that were in place were just so far over the value of the house that it didn't make sense.
Yep. No, good that you had a chance to go through that. No, that's awesome. Let's see what else. As far as when you made the initial contact with the wholesaler, that was done like messaging through Facebook or to pick
I
up the.
think, yeah, initially it was just Facebook messaging. At some point, I got his phone number. I don't recall when, and I was texting him, tried calling him, and initially he wasn't returning my calls. He turns out he already had the deal under contract, so I guess he was prioritizing his time, which is why he didn't return the call. But now that I
Hmm.
have a relationship with him, I can pick up the call and phone. I can call him now.
Nice. It's to have that relationship because that will obviously turn into many more deals.
Yes.
That's I'm kind of reminded of Josie in Texas, and she got connected with a flipper, and she did an AO with that flipper, and since then she's doing her seventh deal with that same flipper.
Yeah. I'd be happy to do that too. Work all the averages.
That's awesome, Avi, and glad to hear that that's been working out for you. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners can take advantage of that and look into doing that with wholesalers,
Hmm.
between that and realtors. How, if you've worked with realtors on deals, which have you done that yet?
I have not. No.
Oh,
And
I was just
even though,
wondering, I was just wondering how the differences, what kind of differences there are between dealing with a wholesaler and dealing with a realtor.
well, I am a realtor, so and realtors are trained to just work traditional sales. And you do have some that are open-minded, but it's few. It is few and far between. You can talk to them about things you can do to help the seller, but we're trained as a realtor. I was trained to be a buffer between the buyer and the seller. You do not let them talk to each other. Whereas when you're trying to buy something creatively, we need to understand what's the seller situation. And if you don't know what their pain points are, and you're getting only filtered information, you can't. It's impossible to create a scenario that might work for them. It's you got to talk to them. So it's I think the key to working with realtors would be a lot of phone calls, looking uh, at properties that have been on the market for a long time, 60 or 90 days, and calling those realtors to find the realtor who's willing to be open-minded enough to allow you to have a conversation with their seller together with the realtor, not, sidestepping them and
Right.
trying to move forward in the best interest of their seller.
Yeah, I found a couple of weeks ago, I was working with one of our associates on a deal, and the realtor, it was actually through a realtor. The realtor happened to be a friend of hers, and we explained to her what we do and told her that we also work with realtors and how we do that for anything that doesn't fit in their box or that's going to go expired or whatever. She was very open and she said, "Would you like to talk to the seller? I can do it with you or you can call them directly." And I said, "I prefer that you be on the phone since you are the realtor." And I know I could hear it on the phone how much she appreciated that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, with the wholesaler, you talk about finding the seller's pain points. Did the seller relate that to you, or did the wholesaler relate that to you?
The wholesaler had not, but on the other hand, that was already the terms were already negotiated and they were excellent.
Hmm.
The When I met with the first one, when I met the seller, I did ask him a few questions. Actually, with both of them, I just conversationally asked them questions, and I got a sense of why they were selling. But at that point, I had already committed. Well, one of them I had already committed to the deal, but that was fine. Um, it was just more out of interest to understand why would someone be selling and be willing to take payments with no interest over such a long period of time.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible. I had one deal that it was principal only payments on it. It was over a 5 year period, and to me that was incredible. But
Mhm.
you've expanded that substantially with
Well,
this deal.
happy to do better than the coach.
So, awesome. Great to hear that, Avi, and I'm sure there'll be more to come in the future. Let's transition to our cool down.
Mhm.
And with our cool down, I know we always talk, Rusty and I talk about the In the Trenches boot camp or, big in-person events coming up. Um, we actually don't have an In the Trenches boot camp coming up until November, beginning of November, but we do have QLS Live coming up the beginning of October. And you can go into the show notes and get the information on that. But what would you say? You've been to one of the boot camps, Avi, and what are your major takeaways from the boot camps?
So the boot camp is a very intensive small group setting. Intensive in a good sense. You go there. If you bring leads, the coaches will sit with you and dial your leads. And that's really, I think, the big key there is to come in with leads. But even for people who are brand new that were at the boot camp, once they saw how the coaches were dialing my leads and a few other people's, they started finding things online. There was like looking for sale by owners. So the coaches dialed just brand new first call for sale by owners. It works better with a lead that's already a warm lead, someone you've spoken to already a couple of times. But that's what like you're doing deals there. I walked out of the boot camp. I've been twice to the boot camp, or like once to the boot camp, once to something else that was similar. Both times I walked out with appointments. It's just the coaches are sitting. They're not just sitting with you. They're making the calls. And I've done the calls to get to the point to bring the leads to them, and this is just taking it to another level. In addition, there is a lot of talk about there's deal structure that we work on when we're there, and what I found most beneficial. I mean, it's hard. I've already told you something that's really beneficial, but even more beneficial was the last day they um, went through to find my sticking points. I mean, it's going back to the mindset piece at the beginning. It's full circle. Uh, we did calls, we did deal structures, we did. I mean, we talked about a lot of other things too. But the last day was okay. Where are you in your business? Where are you holding? And they would I bring all of your statistics, how many calls you make, how many people you reach, how many leads you get from each one, blah, blah, blah. And went through that. And it's like, okay, and there's a seven step system. Where are you in the system? Where's your hang up? Where are you getting stuck? Are you stuck at number one? You're not making calls. Are you stuck in whatever it is? And each time they found where I'm getting stuck and gave me pointers of how to get past that.
Yep. I remember before we had boot camp, we had two sessions with Zach and Chris and Nick. And we bring all of our KPIs, our metrics with us, with how many calls we made, how many leads, and so on and so forth. And they went through my KPIs and they said, how many hours a week do you have your VA dialing? And I said, 10 hours. And they said, increase it to 15 because you need 3 more leads a week for everything to break loose. And I increased it just like he said. In fact, I think you got Angela as well.
Yep.
Yep. But they said 3 more leads a week and everything will break loose. Well, like clockwork, I increased her hours to 15. She increased her lead count and things took off for me. So yeah, the big, huge benefit now that we have in the trenches boot camp, everybody gets to see that done at strategy session in person and
Yep.
we do it with them. So lastly, the big events, we'll talk about QLS Live. What would you say differentiates that from anything else?
Uh, it's very genuine. I've been to various different real estate boot camps. They're first of all, you get a lot of information. Look, it's you're going there. It's various workshops. You bring in all sorts of different personalities who talk to different things, and you just the amount of learning is very. I'm going to use the word intense again. There's just a lot of that going on. There's a lot of it's just great to actually meet all the people who we see on Zoom, or if you're not within the community, to get out to come and meet all the people who are in the community. It's just uh, you get to hear their stories, which you don't, and learn personal things about them, and you understand where they're holding. Uh, it's it's very different than in your trenches boot camp. It's a very different experience. Uh, that's more the big QLS is more the big picture, I would say, and in the trenches boot camp is where you're working on the meat and potatoes.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. The combination of the trenches boot camp and the live events, it's a great combination of tools available to us. So, well, that's awesome, Molly. I appreciate having you on. You in Israel now, or are you?
Not yet, not yet. My wife and son just got on the plane a few hours ago. They took off an hour ago. I'm going to be following them in a few weeks.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing how you can be in Israel and still do deals in the U.S.
Well, we're going to work on that. That's our next challenge of doing that. But with the Chris and I have already spoken about a bit about how we're going to do that, and going to make it happen.
Awesome. And we're all here to help you too. So,
Thank you.
all right, Avi, thanks a lot for coming on. Appreciate having you.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. It was good being on. Sorry Rusty wasn't here, but I guess that was my opportunity to show up.
All right. And we'll be talking soon.
Okay. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
All right, you too.